All right, what's up, guys? This one's gonna be kind of a. I know I say this every time. It's gonna be a short video just because it's super late, and hopefully I'll get this thing started tomorrow. So there should be eh, a more recent video after this one that'll just have everything done. This is just kind of a placeholder in case that doesn't happen. But like I said, we're pretty close to getting started, so I'll just turn around the camera and kind of go over what we've done, or what I've done, where we're at, so you guys can kind of follow along. So it's like I said, it's pretty much done. It's almost there. Ignore all the like ugly hose clamps because those are gonna be replaced. But the wonderful United States Postal Service is slow as usual, so I don't have my clamps. It's surprisingly hard to find constant tension clamps for a 3/4 hose. I don't know why. I'm not really asking questions. Whatever. Um, this coolant tank got mounted so you can see it clears the valve cover, while also clearing my oil cap, clearing the that technically goes behind, but I have it routed just because I was messing around with stuff. It clears the PCV breather or the catch can. And actually, what I ended up doing with this, so this is the original bracket that I made, and I 3D printed another bracket that kind of sleeves over it. And so what this one does is it allows me to angle this down, like down this way, because it does hit the roof or the hood. So that should mostly be fine. I think it still hits the padding a little bit. Should clear the hood. Bigger reason that bracket there is I actually mounted my purge valve on the back of it. So plug goes in, tank side goes in, and then the intake side goes out that way. And I have it where it's routed behind my blower and it comes over to this extra PCV. It comes over to this extra PCV slot right here. So the big one right here is where that one is routed in, and it goes to the purge valve. I'm not entirely sure if that's obviously, I don't know. That port, I'm 99% sure is actually used for the stock brake booster, but I'm not. It's a vacuum port behind the throttle body. I think they're all kind of the same at that point at that location. The port behind it is the one that I'm using for the brake booster. Hopefully, the check valve in that booster is enough to prevent, fade from the brakes, but not entirely sure. We'll see. I just want to get this thing running at this point to get some data logs and see what it's doing. Relax. I'll move that back for right now. Okay, so that runs a lot like that. There is a piss load of wire or tubes everywhere, and I'm gonna try and clean up a little bit of it, but I don't know if that's entirely possible. My overflow runs with my pretty much the purge valve. It runs behind the blower, and it goes into the back of the reservoir there. And I plugged this one. This one goes into the bottom of the intercooler, and then the top comes out and down. And hold on, let me shake. Okay. Okay. So how this system works, how this is routed. I just had to double check so I don't tell you guys the wrong thing. Reservoir is right there. Pump is down there. Heat exchanger, intercooler. So if we imagine that the fluid starts at the reservoir, it goes from the bottom one, it goes down below, and it passes underneath the heat exchanger into the pump, and then the pump pushes it through the heat exchanger back up into the top of the intercooler, and then out the bottom into the reservoir again. The reason that it goes into the top of the intercooler is as Justin from VMP said, you want your colder water touching your air at the latest point. And since it's blowing the air up through the intercooler and then over and down into your intake, the top one is going to be the one that it has last contact with the air before it goes into your engine. So that's where you want your coldest water. And so that's how that's mounted. Everything should be more or less good here. One big problem that I'm looking at though is I vacuum tested this one and it held pressure just fine for about 20-25 minutes. That one is dropping. I don't know what is going on. I need to figure out, maybe it doesn't like vacuum pressure. Maybe I'm going to pressure test it tomorrow and pray to God that it holds pressure, because I have taken that lid off 3 times now and I do not want to do it again. Especially now that I keep adding stuff on it. That's going to suck. But on that note, part of the reason that I did take it off, I just took it off, that's kind of what delayed everything, is I had to tap it again, or not again. I didn't know that I had to tap the lid for a boost reference. I thought I could pull it off the bypass valve, but you have to tap it. So I had pulled it off, tapped the boost reference, which is a 1/8 by 27 NPT fitting, at least for the glow shift gauge that I have. And while I was in there, I figured I've taken this lid off 3 or 4 times now. So the O-rings that go in these what are they called? Water transfer tubes or whatever. If you take this apart, you'll know what I'm talking about. In this water neck here, there's two fittings that go from this water neck to the intercooler, and they have O-rings on each side of them. And so after 3 or 4 times, I figured I might as well switch them out. Here's the stock ones, like they're ring sized. And so I figured I'd switch them out just to have new O-rings in there, because if those fail, then water's going right in your intake, and that's pretty much going to ruin your day right off the bat. So I replaced those, but I was looking, if you're in the States, I challenge you to find one of those O-rings for less than $50 a piece. And so you're looking at, I think the cheapest that I could get at this time for a set of 4 of them was going to be in the ballpark of $300 to $400 for 4 O-rings that can fit on your finger. So what I ended up doing, and I'm hoping is not my problem as to why it's not holding pressure, but what I ended up doing was I called VMP, and because I noticed that they have those crossover tubes that they make for their bigger intercooler, but I noticed that one end was still, factory size. So I called them, I was like, hey, can I have 4 of those O-rings that are on the factory end, because I just need to replace mine and I can't find them. Like, they're $400, and they're like, yeah. So they gave me 4 of the O-rings for $5 a piece, so $20, and shipped me out those, and I put those in. They fit fine. I don't have any reason to suspect that they're not gonna seal. So I have no idea why this thing is not holding pressure. I've tested. I've clamped everything pretty well. Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss. I'm just hoping it's not those O-rings, because I don't want to pull that lid off again. But that's coolant system. That's pretty much done. Once I figure out what's going on there, hopefully it's nothing. That's done. It's pretty much routed. I might throw some wire or some lube over those. I don't know. I kind of like the thought of like those being bare with lube everywhere else, so it kind of gives some contrast. I don't know. It's too late for me to think about that. I also extended the harnesses. I mean, obviously, the purge valve's over there, which the factory harness kind of sticks out like 2 inches there. VMP does sell, I believe it's a 12-inch and a 36-inch purge valve plug extender. So it's plugged in right, I think it's right there. I put the extender on it right there, wrapped all that up, and then ran it back with my wire loom back, and it's plugged in. I don't remember what that loom was, but then you also pretty much have to get a throttle body wire extender. So that's plug and play, and that's plug and play. I know I bought those 2 at the same time. It was about $100. Is it worth it? I don't know. They're really nice wire looms. Like, I would give VMP credit. They're really nice. I'm not complaining about the quality at all. It's just, $100 for some wires is kind of crazy, but I mean, it made my life a lot easier. So wiring is done there. I wire loomed everything. I did end up putting you can't see it. I tapped, I didn't tap, but I teed off of the stock oil pressure sensor. I ran a tee off it, so the stock one is off of a tee, and then at the end of it is my Innovate pressure sensor. That was not a fun excursion to do, especially since this car has the oil cooler, which kind of sits. Well, no, it's a sandwich plate. So the oil cooler is a sandwich plate that sits between the block and the oil filter, and it has tubes coming off of it, and those tubes pretty much block you from putting any sort of sizable sensor on it. Hopefully, if it doesn't leak, I'll be happy. And obviously, I don't want it to come undone and spill oil everywhere. But that is that. You might notice I have a new catch can versus like the old like, I don't even know what that was. It was a generic one. This is UPR single valve, I think. Found it for a decent price on eBay. It's the same one that Orlando Mustang Resto was using for his Predator swap build. Fits perfectly. He wasn't running I think he capped it off. It vents to the air box right here. I'm not entirely sure why, but it works. I just drilled out a little hole here from airbox, and it goes right in, no issues. I think it looks factory. I think it looks good. So that one is for your passenger side bank. So it pulls it out of the can, or it pulls it out of the head into the can, and then it actually comes back, and your PCV is right. Hold on a second. Oh yeah, it's this one. This is your PCV right here. So that's one PCV valve. The other one is the one I was using for the purge valve. This one I'll probably run over the intake. And so that's your passenger side. And then with the kit, it also comes with this, I forget what they call it. It's pretty much a big check valve. This is not a check valve that's sticking out of the valve cover. It's literally just a straight hole through, and I think it's because it feeds it air this way, and then it pulls it out that way, because that one, you see it's blue. It's a check valve. This one is just a straight through. So this one is a reverse check valve, so it doesn't allow any oil to come out this way, but it allows air just to go straight through, and then it goes right into your intake tube here. Really nice catch can system. I mean, they're like $400 new, so it's not like you're paying for it, but it's a really nice system. I'm curious to see what it does or how it does, but yeah. What else? The other big fun one, I replaced my entire fuel line with 6AN line. So this is the Evil Energy 60 or 70 foot kit that you can get on Amazon. And so it's got the 3/8 push fitting on the end of it, and then it's like a little 45-degree bend there. And then the line comes up. Here, sorry. One take. Line comes up over, kind of matches this, and then goes down. You can kind of see it. If you're doing this on your car, you'll see it there. It pairs with the purge valve line, and they both come up and go down under your pan and back. So I ripped the entire. Actually, I have it over here. I ripped the entire fuel line out, all the way back to the fuel tank, and put 6AN in. And that's because I thought that there was a fuel filter underneath my driver's side door, so you'd only have to go halfway back. But apparently, for some reason, these cars don't have any fuel filter in them, or it's like in the fuel hat. It's not in. There's no inline filter, so you have to pull the entire thing out. Is it worth it just for it to look nice right there? I don't know. I think it's cool. We'll see. As long as it doesn't leak, I'll be happy. So this side, like I said, it's 3/8 push fitting, 45-degree, and then 6AN line straight back. The back line, or the back for the fuel oh God, I cannot talk. The top hat for the fuel pump is not a 3/8 push fitting. It's the size below it. I think it's a 5/16 is what it was. And what I ended up doing was I took Evil Energy has a 6AN to 5/16 push fitting. You want a 90-degree one because it has to come up and turn right away just so it sits underneath that rubber gasket in your on top of your fuel tank. What you have to do, because that nipple on top of that fuel hat is not tall enough for that push fitting to sit on there normally, you have to take this. So this isn't exactly what would be on there, but it's the same principle. So this slides onto the nipple. So, okay. So, nipples right here. That slides onto it, and then your line will kind of come over it, and it'll click into this. So what I ended up having to do for that 5/16 fitting was I had to shave it down to probably at the top of my finger there. You had to take both of these flanges off because you have to shorten it down so that it'll go onto the nipple far enough to lock. So you have to shave this down, and then once you get this to fit on the nipple, put it back into the fitting itself, and then mark the level that it's at here, and then shave your fitting down. And so that'll show you how much you have to shave. I think there was just enough for me to have maybe a couple thou clearance between the bottom of my fitting and the top hat, just in case, really crappy day, if I had to get that off, I could use a pick like this maybe and finesse it and kind of like pick it open and pull off. It also is, an AN fitting, so I could just undo the threads, because honestly, at any point that I'm pulling that line off, I'll probably just replace the fuel pump anyways. So, yeah, as long as neither leak, I'm fine with that. I think that looks a million times better than the other one. And so I think that's pretty much, that is really everything. All I have to do, what I'm waiting on, is figuring out why that's not holding pressure. I don't want to throw fluid in it, just in case those are leaking in there. And then this right here, I bought a different coupler here that doesn't have the bulge in it from a place called intakehoses.com. They're up in Spokane, Washington, so they're pretty close to me. Within a state. But I think I'll blame myself because I think it was me that I ordered the wrong size, so it's not big enough for this. But once I get that in, and even then, I think if I can get this running tomorrow, I'll just pull my box out and then just run the filter normal or like without a box, because it'll suffice for now. I'm pretty sure that does remind me, actually. So I don't have the old extra fitting for the automatic transmission that my intake came with. So what I'm going to have to do, which I think is pretty much what everybody else has to do, is you have to tap your intake tube for the discharge on your bypass valve. Mustang Lifestyle has a really good video he just put out a couple weeks back kind of detailing how that bypass valve works, because nobody had a straight answer on it. But that makes sense, and I've seen it a couple times, so thank you very much. What it is, so there's two nipples here. The bottom one still has tape on it. The top one, it's, let me make sure I say this, or look at this correctly before I tell you. I believe 730, yeah, so this is 7/32 vacuum line. Fits pretty much perfectly on there. This top one is your vacuum line, or your vacuum port, and so it's going to go into that, you can see it, this one here. It's just going to go straight from your, I lost it now, top of your, over there, top of your bypass valve is going to go into that one, and your bottom one is a discharge, and you want to discharge it back into your airstream, because you don't want to just vent it, because it is vented air at that point, or it's metered air at that point, because your MAF is right here and it's tracking everything that comes in. So if you start venting out stuff, it has no idea how much is actually going into the engine. And then your AFR is going to be off. So you have to, or I have to tap probably right here, just tap a barb in, and so it can vent back in before the throttle body, and it'll just discharge it back into the stream with no issue. And then, yeah, I think that should be it. I have the tune from VMP. I have Michelle, which is the same lady that tuned it last time. She's been great to me. Sent me the tune, I think it's been a week now. And it actually, she didn't even ask for revisions. So I'm going to still do like idle and driving logs for it and see how it is, and then see what she thinks before we do a wide open throttle pull. But yeah, pressure, intake, some miscellaneous stuff, put the battery in, flash the tune. I still have to put the gauges in, but that shouldn't be that difficult or hard. And then it should be good to go. And then I have to just wait for the clamps to come in for those. If any of you guys have any idea, I was looking for some sort of like T-bolt clamp. I thought those would be kind of nice to have some, like, not the T-bolts with the springs, but the other kind of T-bolts. I'm blanking on them. I thought those would be really nice to have on this, but I'm not entirely sure that we're gonna. I just can't find them. So I have constant tension clamps that should be able to fit all of this 3/4 line. And then I think it's pretty much done. I finally found another blue hood, so that I'll get a new hood for this. I found a GT500 wing that matches my color, so those will be going on. Still looking for suspension, but other than that, I think at this point I'm going to see how long the stock clutch lasts before I have to put another one in. I don't know. I'm not going to drive this thing super hard, so I wouldn't be surprised if it lasted a decent amount of time. But we'll see. While I'm looking at it, also, it's the same method as I did for that side. This one, splice it in right there. Kind of a no-no, but technically the factory line, from what I can tell, is a 5/8, not a 3/4. But this is a 3/4 fitting, and that's a 3/4 line, and it held vacuum perfect. So it's technically not. It technically works. It does kind of bug me, so I might replace this out with 5/8. I don't really know. It's not the top of my priority list right now, just because I want to get this thing running. But yeah, like I said, hopefully that happens. If not tomorrow, next week. So I'll have a video coming out, within probably the month, of just kind of a recap on everything that has been done to this, and then, feel free to ask questions either in this video or wait for that one to come out. I'll just kind of leave that video as like, this is the entire build. Ask any questions you want there, versus I know this is kind of been a follow me along, but not entirely informational kind of series so far. So that one is going to be the one where I will open it up to just, anything you have questions on regarding this, fire away. And if I don't know off the top of my head, I'll try and look it up. But yeah, with that, I'm going to go get some sleep. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you later.